So the dinner looks pretty much the same as it has been looking, except for this fancy dish right here. And I forgot to bring the cashews out to put on it, but we'll have them with it, I guess, the next time we eat it. And I'm having some sweet hot chocolate and some carrot pie. And James can have that if he likes. Go ahead and start talking, James.
Okay, so let's get this.
Oh, I don't need it. You can just have it on you. And James is going to be talking politics again.
Politics and some movies. So this one I wanted to do a long time ago and just never got around to doing it. Nature's Medicines by Richard Lucas. The foreword is by Harry Benjamin, MD. The folklore, romance, and value of herbal remedies. Step up to nature's medicine chest. Well, you know, there's actually, I think, some pretty good stuff in here. When was it published? 64? Let's see how well I remember this. Usually I put it on the front, but I didn't. That's written in Roman numerals. 66. So I was off by 2 years, but it's been like 2 years since I was going to review it, since I finished it up. But actually, it hasn't been quite that bad, but it's been quite a while. Yeah, I finished 26th of September, so almost a month. Anyway, you know, there's some stuff in here, but then he starts talking God talk, and some people aren't going to take that terribly seriously. So they're going to do the ad hominem thing. Lots of people do that nowadays. Lots of people have always done that. I try not to do it. And it's actually still pretty good, despite all the spooky religious talk and stuff like that. Speaking of spooky talk, Dead Right. I was mentioning this the other day, written by a Canadian or former Canadian, maybe he's a dual citizen, David From. Why would I put that T on the end of his last name? Please, if you got dual citizenship, give up the Canadian citizenship. You're ashamed to anyone share citizenship with you. There's lots of people in the United States who are pretty shameless and would be only too happy to put up with your anyway. So this is written in 1994, and that's cloth paper, 1995. Dead Right. David From, the son of Barbara From. I think she died of embarrassment. No, I shouldn't say that because she's a nice person. But can you imagine having a son like this idiot? A new Republican era has dawned, or has it? Will the right do what it must to shrink government and strengthen family values and allow Donald Trump to be elected? You know, like he's a guy who since 1916, it feels that long, 2016, has been, you know, decrying, he's a Republican, decrying Trump taking over the Republican Party. Oh, it's awful. You stupid idiot. You and your fellow flunky Republicans, the globalists, set up a cheating system with your gerrymandering and your computerized voting that an idiot like Putin was able to use to get a flunky, a vassal called Donald Trump, fake elected in the United States. You stupid idiot. So you're blaming Donald Trump for the very problem that you created. At any rate, by all means, by no means buy this book. And it's only for people who can have a strong stomach to read. I have a strong stomach. I've read some awful stuff coming from the right and the left. I want to talk a little bit about politics. There was a fairly interesting interview on Matt Galloway's little program on CBC this morning. He had some interviews, but the fourth one, I think it was with PJ O'Rourke. So PJ doesn't stand for pajamas. Maybe it should, you know. PJ's O'Rourke. But he's a guy from Toledo, Ohio. I think it's Toledo, he was saying, something like that. And he used to be a satirist. He claims he still is now. I think he used to work for National Lampoon. And he claims he used to be a commune. I don't see why he'd lie. It must be awfully embarrassing. And now he's sounds as though he's been shameless throughout his life. He's kind of like a Republican, like a Republican apologist. He did the Dennis Miller thing, yeah, I guess he was a 60s generation kind of guy. There's a faux lefty. There were lots of them then. There are lots of faux lefties now coming out of the woodwork, like worms. But, Dennis Miller changed and stuff like that, so did P.J. O'Rourke. Now he's written a book, and I like the title, I gotta admit. I think it's a little bit of a misnomer. He's describing himself as coming from the far middle in politics. So he's against Trump. He said he voted for whomever back in 2016. I guess it'd be Hillary Clinton. He says, I think he's going to hold his nose and vote for Joe Biden. He's not very thrilled with Joe Biden. I think Joe Biden, as far as politicians go, a fairly inoffensive sort. So he comes from the far middle. I do like that title because, yeah, that kind of describes me. I come from the far middle. There's lots of people, I'm sure, that just hate my political viewpoints because I kind of in the hewing to the middle. No, try to stay in the road. Don't go in the ditches, right or left ditch. It's kind of crazy out there. It's awful, really. It's like he said, Matt Galloway asked him, how does it feel to come from the far middle? All O'Rourke said was lonely. That's the funniest thing he said the whole time, the whole half hour or so. It was more like 20 minutes. He was getting maybe 15 minutes. So lonely. That's the way I feel. There's lots of craziness to the right, lots of craziness to the left, and not many people in the middle. There's no virtue in being in the middle, but there is a virtue from avoiding the crazy stuff happening with the alt-right and the alt-left. So, and it's not even the alt-left and the alt-right. A lot of Republicans have gone off in the direction of Donald Trump, trying to get reelected to the Senate, to the House. And there are lots of liberal people who are getting influenced by alt-left things, playing identity politics. It's amazing how people say they use the term racialized people. The most racialized people in the world today are whites. They're bad. You'll get things like they're genetically bad. What is going on? I think they're pretty well the same as pretty well anyone else in terms of genes. They've been bad white people, okay white people, the occasional good one. Yeah. Well, yeah. There's all sorts of craziness out there. Anyway, did you want to talk about that book or? Nope. Okay.
I just brought that out so that I could put hot chai on.
Well, that's the ultimate review. Is that the one?
Yes.
Urban Garden.
Yes.
It's being used as a placemat now.
It is.
So,
and
there you go.
Really, it's worthy of kindling. But I'll
It's
talk
lucky
about.
we're not having a barbecue
Yeah.
weather kind
Might
of
go
day.
in there. So, anyway, I wanted to talk about my recipe. So, this is something that I like to make, and normally I don't make it this way at all.
This particular one, this fancy one?
So,
It looks amazing.
yeah, it is the most delicious Indian recipe ever, and it's not. I mean, strictly, it's not strictly Indian. It's just kind of a
You've
whatever.
improvised?
So,
That's pretty good.
yeah. So, it's better with the cashews. You'll see.
Is it yam?
Well, no, that's turnip. That's rutabaga. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know.
Wow.
I've never done it with rutabaga before, but James was talking about the gravy and how sweet it was,
Yeah.
and how he couldn't believe that it was rutabaga that
Yeah.
I make the gravy out of.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I may as well try this, because normally I would make it out of a sweet squash. So
That's what I figured it was
yeah.
at first, and I thought, I don't think we have any squash around, so I was
Yeah.
going, it's kind of orangey.
And so I thought, well,
So I
I'll
thought
make
maybe
it out
it
of
was
the
the yam.
rutabaga,
Mm.
and I put asparagus also there, and just for fun, because we had it. And I thought, well, I'll put it right beside the sweet potatoes on the plate, and then if it's not sweet enough, I can always eat it with the sweet potatoes. But anyway,
Now, is this
I don't even find it's
basil
really
that you
necessary.
put on it?
Yes, fresh basil. It's better with fresh basil. I've made it with dried, it's okay. But honestly, I don't like using dried leafy spices unless I really can't afford to get fresh stuff. Sometimes you can get the packages of fresh stuff, they're putting them on like just really cheap before they toss them, sort of thing, and I'd rather get the fresh stuff that's kind of iffy than get the dried stuff. Because
So you
honestly,
figured the dry stuff is kind of the goodies just wafted off into the universe, or what?
well, like for example, this package of fresh Thai basil, which I got from Superstore, it says wash thoroughly.
Exactly right.
And when you get dry things, like I made the gravy out of rye flour, and I can handle a little bit of the gluten stuff without getting too much pain in my hands. I forgot to bring out the cranberry juice that I juiced. And that helps with the pain in my hands. So this time of year, I'm doing a lot of vegetable peeling and chopping up hard vegetables like the rutabaga and like beets and carrots. And for maybe 20 years ago or something, I could barely do that. And I could barely wash my hair and stuff. My hands were so sore.
That's because
And-
you were using secateurs
Yeah.
every
And-
work day.
Yeah, so I was a gardener and I was pruning all the time. And it could have been that, it could have been the loppers, it could have been the
Loppers are
chainsaw,
awful.
whatever. It was just
They would
the
all
work
add up.
that I was doing, it really, really hurt. And I was having an impossible time. I mean, I went to the doctor and I couldn't get a proper diagnosis, so I couldn't get any way to bring a doctor's note to get light duties or anything like that. So there was no way it would ever heal because I was having to keep do the same work all the time, and it was ridiculous. But such is life for passive personality types. You go to the doctor and you're like, why did I bother? They're not going to treat me. And
Well, they
get
did
back
treat
to
you.
work.
They treated you badly.
Yeah. So
what did they do? You were saying you couldn't sleep, so what did they do?
Well, first I went in and I'm like, just give me some kind of sleeping pill that won't, because it was to the point where when I dreamed I was having night terrors, and it was awful. So first I went
I've had the pain from the loppers here. You can't sleep.
Well, I couldn't
And that
sleep.
was
It
just,
would shoot
for
up my
2
head.
hours of
It'd
use.
shoot up to here.
Yeah.
The pain.
It's awful.
And then when I'd finally get to sleep, it was night terrors, and I'd be right back up again, and then I couldn't sleep. And how could I work like that? I was having to do dangerous work. And anyway, it was awful.
It was awful, and what was worse was the doctors were as awful too.
Yeah.
They added to the awful.
Yeah, it was just, I was being abused everywhere, every aspect of my life. Anybody, in every aspect of my life, it was abusive, except for talking to my dad on the phone. And anyway, awful. I don't know where I was going with this. Oh, pain in hand. Guys, I don't want to talk about that anymore. But if you have serious pain and it's shooting up your arm and you can't sleep and whatever, it's really bad, and you're having a hard time doing anything anymore. You're having a hard time holding a fork. It's just falling out of your hand. It's and you're like, I can't live. I can't take care of myself. I can't get, there's no way that anybody's helping me. And try cranberries. Now, don't buy cranberry juice, and you definitely don't want to be eating sugar. No sugar. If you're going to have sugar, have it in the form of vegetables and fruit. Whole fruit, not fruit juice. And definitely never buy cranberry juice. Never.
How
Ever
about
buy that.
cranberry sauce? Bad
No,
too?
that's full of sugar.
There you go.
You can't have the sugar, that's going to increase your pain. And so, but cranberries, and this time of year, you should be able to go out and get them for almost nothing. Because after Thanksgiving, they put them on sale for dirt cheap. So, get as many as you can fill a cooler with.
Yep. Keep buying it
Cool.
until they start ramping up the prices for Christmas, right?
And every day, juice one of those bags of cranberries and drink it down fresh. And you'll have a lot less pain in your hand after, like, not that many bags, but anyway. But you gotta quit the sugar. So, I was gonna talk about the dish I made. So what you do is you take your rutabagas and you chop them up. Normally I wouldn't make it with rutabagas, but you can make it with sweet potato. You can make it with, like, the sweet squash, like I said, it's delicious. So you take that, this time I made with rutabaga, so I'll tell you how to make it with rutabaga. But you take your hard vegetables, you chop them up into pieces, whatever bite size, whatever sort of pieces you want. And then you put them on a baking tray and drizzle a bit of oil. I would suggest coconut oil because you're going to be cooking. So you put the coconut oil on the stuff, and then you put some salt and pepper on it, and you stick it in the oven. And I go pretty much 350 for everything I do in the oven, but do what you like. And then while you're doing that, fry up some onions with some garlic and some what else? Oh, ajwain and turmeric and cumin. And you might think, oh, I can't stand the smell of ajwain. Trust me, with this, it's delicious. And you'll want to make this almost every day, but it takes a bit of time, so you won't make it every day. You'll make it for things like Thanksgiving and Christmas. I used to make it all the time for those two holidays, because those are the big, eat healthy days, or for some people, no. But
eat too much days for a lot of people.
But anyway, so, and this time I put asparagus in it, and I think that's about it. And then, you want to fry up your raw cashews before you fry up the other stuff, and just put them to the side in a dish. Anyway, and then you, once that's fried up, and you could turn off the heat and stuff, and then you'd flip your hard vegetables in the oven so that they cook properly. And then you
so hard vegetables would be like what? Carrots?
Like the rutabagas.
Okay, there we go. Yeah,
or
they're
you
very
could
hard.
make with other things.
Beets.
Anyway, and then while that's getting finished, then you cut up your fresh basil in a chiffonade. And
very good use of French chiffon.
And then you plate it up. First you put the rutabagas, the hard vegetable stuff, into the other mix. You mix it all together, and then you plate it up. It's delicious.
Very successful recipe. Very good.
So,
way to eat healthy,
yes.
and yet at the same time enjoying it. It's hard when you're a vegetarian sometimes if you don't have the skills.
I bet I let it get cold.
Not really. No, not for me. Not for you. I like stuff kind of lukewarm.
warmer. So you're going to talk more about those Bob Woodward books?
Not today. I've got something called Proof of Collusion, which is published maybe 2018. It wasn't written by Bob Woodward, but I'm kind of in a electoral mode or something like that right now. And I want to finish things up with that. I do want to say that hopefully Bozo, Donald Trump, gets defeated. Republicans And Democrats, I mean, you Republicans that claim you're Democratic Party, not even democracy. I'm going to mention something, if you guys know history, and most of you flunkies don't. I'm talking about the Democrats and Republicans. That should strike fear in your heart. Even if Trump gets defeated, what's the problem? Presidents are limited, I think by law, to 2 terms. Well, he's only served 1. Grover Cleveland. There was one president, he was a horrible idiot, I think.
Oh, you
Democrat.
think he'll get reelected in the future?
You know?
I
That's
think
what
he's going to
happened
get
before.
reelected right away, so...
And it's quite possible. Not really elected, they'll cheat like crazy chimps, the Republicans and the Russians and stuff like that. It's quite possible.
But, I mean, honestly, this is also the fault of people who consider themselves left-wing.
Well,
In fact, I would say it's more the fault. Trump is more the fault of people who consider themselves to be
That's why he's
left-wing.
hanging on.
Because there are many left-wingers who they don't believe in democracy. They can't possibly.
especially freedom of speech.
Yeah. What they really want is a dictatorship run with their values, preferably by them, you know, and they definitely don't believe in democracy. If they did, people like Donald Trump would never be elected.
Yeah, for example, they don't believe in a meritocracy. You can't really have a democracy where you don't have something like a meritocracy, or at least working towards it. And full lefties have been working away from it since I was a kid. Affirmative action, I think that term was coined by John F. Kennedy, so that would be... He might have got it from someone else, but that would be about 60 years ago.
I'm generalizing here, but the people that things like disability and stuff like that are actually designed for are aggressive personality types. Passive personality types almost can't get it. They can't go to a doctor and actually get diagnosed and treated.
Doctors are...
So
they think they identify with the upper classes, right? So they're saying, this guy's a worker. He must be a shirker. So I'm not going to give him the paperwork that'll...
well, a lot of the
him to
time the
accept.
doctors, it should be blues. A lot of the time
should be.
they're reds or blue reds.
Yeah.
So the only thing that aggressive people respect is dominance and aggression. So they're not going to try to help out some passive person who's they're thinking, get to work, that's your place. You are the slave of if you're an amiable personality type, you are so hooped.
Yep. So, it doesn't matter if you're amiable blue or amiable green. They're going to get you. So, yeah, they asked this P.J. O'Rourke. So he's a right-winger, former extreme, well, I call it full lefty. I'll call him, there's another type of right-winger. But he thinks he shifted over from one wing to another. And so Matt Galloway had to ask him, what do you think of Black Lives Matter? And he said, P.J. O'Rourke, yeah, depends on whether BL and M are capitalized or not. Well, that's a good way to put it. Black lives do matter. But that movement with the capitalized letters, P.J. O'Rourke just pointed out, he said, yep, you think things are bad now between right and left. The 60s were amazing. And he said, I've been saying, it doesn't take brilliance to see this. He said, what ended up with all that, the faux lefties the Maoists and stuff like that. He didn't say Maoists, but he might as well have. But that got Richard Nixon elected.
Yeah.
And he said, this is what got Donald Trump elected, and this is what keeps him hanging on. Truer words are rarely said by a right-wing, rabid right-wing Republican.
That was delicious.
He recognizes it. That's what's keeping Trump up then.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Oh, I watched High Note.
High Note.
It was
Okay.
a god-awful movie.
Was that the one that was playing when I went off for my appointment?
What? I wasn't watching anything when you
Okay.
went off. I got up and started cooking.
I was half asleep.
3 hours.
Hmm. You watched it this morning?
You watched it yesterday,
Okay, there we go. That's when
or day before, something
Mhm.
like that.
High Note. So what was it about?
Well, it was about a passive woman who's an assistant to some big famous singer.
Oh my God, was that awful?
Yeah, it was so bad.
Was that a recent release? Or?
Yes, it was a blockbuster.
Oh my
And
God.
It wasn't
You mean
even
a big seller?
believable. It was like, it was so cheesy. But
Mm.
basically
It was like Velveeta, not even like good cheese.
yeah.
Mm.
So basically the idea of the story is, don't worry, passive personality types. The aggressive yellows are aggressive. Like big famous singers will employ you to be their slave, and you can work for them.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't have to be the red slave anymore. You can be the slave of the yellow. So, yay for you,
Mhm.
amiable people with a lot of education and go on
And a
to
real
that.
work ethic.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that'll work out terrific for you. And you can watch somebody get changed and decide on what clothes they want to donate and what clothes they want to keep. And that'll be a good use of your education, university education. Anyway,
So who was this? It about the High Note? Was it about the guy or the woman producer?
well, my guess is it's
I couldn't figure out.
supposed to be a yay amiable producer kind of.
I thought it was the producer.
Yeah,
exactly.
but-
So that was
No.
Grace Davis or something like that. Is that
No,
the
the singer was Grace Davis,
name? Okay.
which I don't know if that's a real person. I
Yeah,
think that's
who knows?
like Grace Jones / Miles Davis.
Okay.
But anyway,
They had
Not
some
worth
good
watching.
singers, but
Yeah.
horrible songs.
yeah.